Hello, everybody. How are you doing out there on this most wonderfully unexpected victory Monday afternoon as a fan of the Pittsburgh Steelers? I didn't anticipate this, to be honest with you. I did not think that I was going to be coming to you with, well, good news today. I'm just being real. I did not see this one coming. But, I have been watching this team for a number of decades at this point in time. I've been watching Large Benjamin for a number of decades at this point in time. And I guess, I should know better. Whenever you just have to expect the unexpected with the Pittsburgh Steelers. When it is the darkest, they will pull off some magic. I don't know how to explain it. I don't know how to explain anything we've watched this year. But luckily, here to help me discuss that today is my good friend, Mr. Gage Ryan. How you doing, buddy?
Oh my goodness. That game probably took, I'd say a couple weeks off my life, but I'm doing good. I'm hanging in there.
See, I saw a lot of people reacting that way today, and it was an epic game. Don't get me wrong. I'm not going to take it back. I'm not going to, push that down or anything. But I just did not think that there was, I call me negative Nancy, but I just didn't even think there was any chance they were going to win it all week. So for me, it was almost like I got pulled in as the game went on more than usual, and I found myself being like, wow, son of a bitch, like they're gonna do it. And I don't know, man, it's a classic. I feel like it's gonna take some time to fully process the full scope of what we watched yesterday.
It feels almost exactly like the Lamar Jackson game from last year, where it was down to the wire, very last play, everything on the line.
I think that
it was fun to watch. It's definitely a classic, like you said.
I think the difference there, though, is that I think expectations coming into that game were a little bit different. Like going into that game, we were 7-0, 8-0, whatever it was. And I was at that point where I'm like, okay, we're trying to do something this year. We're trying to get this going. And, so I went into that heavyweight fight, like title fight, 5-star matchup right off the bat. This one, I didn't have that feel all week because I didn't really feel good about where the Steelers were after the last couple of weeks. I didn't feel as encouraged as many did about the Chargers game. The Lions game was what it was, and of course the Bengals game was just brutal. So I got to give them credit. And for as hard as I've been on Roethlisberger at times this year, and as hard as I've been on Tomlin at times this year, and I know you have too, I think we got to really step back and give them some credit. That's a hell of a win in the National Football League, any way you slice it.
And something I always give Tomlin credit for is just how damn good of a motivator he is. It doesn't matter what point of the game is, it doesn't matter what the score is. He has them always believing that they can come back and win. And they did.
He really does. And you got to wonder that Schefter story coming out about Ben supposedly being done after this year. And not that was really news to anybody that is paying attention. But you got to wonder what the context and the subtext of that is coming out publicly on Saturday, and if that's an element of this whole thing. You know what I mean? Like they're trying to mold some story for this year and craft whatever it is, and if that's just letting Ben go down slinging like yesterday, then I guess that's okay. The thing about Ben, I was looking at his stats today, and we've talked about how sort of pedestrian they are. They're not, they don't jump out at you. But the one thing I noticed is if you look at his numbers against the Bengals, he's got 2 touchdowns, 4 picks in 2 games against the Bengals. Everyone else, he's got a 14-2 touchdown to interception ratio. Now, I know that 14 number is not leaping off the page. It's not Tom Brady with 31 touchdown passes. But 14-2 touchdown. Hey, he threw like 4 touchdowns again yesterday. He's done it like almost every week this year. I can't knock the guy. but still 14 to 2 touchdown to interception ratio. So where do you still feel the same about Roethlisberger? Do you feel a little better than you did a week ago, or what do you think?
It's a good question. Like, really, sorry.
No, it's okay.
Really, like, when it comes to Ben, I mean, really, nothing has changed. Like, he is who he is at this point. Like, we see that he is not going to push the ball down the field, really, unless he absolutely has to, which isn't, I don't mean for that to sound as critical as it probably sounds. It's just that's the reality of the situation.
I agree,
right
and
now.
he's not connecting on the deep stuff as much still, but I think
No.
it's been better. Wouldn't you say that's been better this year, though, than it was last year? I feel like, I mean...
Feels about the same.
I don't know. If you look since the Denver game, that one he had almost 12 yards attempt, then 6, but then over 8, 7.5, then really bad against Cincinnati, 4.7, but 8.9 against Baltimore. Last year, you look at that last stretch, except for the Colts game, he was at like 5.6 per attempt. So I think it's a little better than it was last year.
Possibly, but it maybe just doesn't feel that way because really on a per throw basis, I don't really expect Ben to hit a deep ball. And I mean that's not a knock on him. It's just he's been in the league for damn near 20 years.
Yeah, no, it's true. He's not accurate on him.
He is late stage, maybe not as bad. Like that, I guess that's a bit of a stretch, but he kind of reminds me of like late stage Drew Brees, where you know he's gonna do what he's gonna do, and I mean if you can stop it, then he's not really gonna adjust by and large.
I think his arm is still better than what Drew Brees was working with last year.
Yes,
I think that would be fair to say.
Yeah, like that's why I said maybe not. It's not a 1-to-1 comparison necessarily, but it's what it reminds me.
No, you know
of.
what he reminds me of? He reminds me of, not the same type because he's going in the opposite direction efficiency wise, but he reminds me of like Brett Favre having 1 or 2 good final years in the Packers, you know, like before he went to the Jets and the Vikings, but he'd have like one good year where you're like, oh wow, he's threw for, 3,900 yards. And I think like, cause I don't think the skills are that diminished. It's just the consistency, at least for me.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's fair. I mean, like I hate to repeat myself, but like he is what he is at this point.
Mm-hmm.
Like you don't expect him to be slinging it. Like really, I've went back and watched like old highlights from kind of Ben in his prime, like with Wallace and Sanders and AB and all that.
Just different.
And man, he was just people are gonna look back on Ben his last 3 years or so, ever since he started Tom Bradying his way to victory, and they're gonna forget just how good Ben was in his prime. And it's unfortunate. It's so unfortunate because like he would just let it rip. I mean, he pretty much every play, pretty much every drive, he was like, "Yeah, can I fit the ball in there? Yeah, let's try it. Fuck it."
Oh, I totally agree about that, but I think is that a little bit of the folly of staying a smidge too long as a pro athlete? I mean, I don't know. I think you'll have to reassess it in 5 or 7 years to see what the general perception of Roethlisberger is, because I think as the news has started to come out to the normals, like, league-wide people as opposed to just team-wide people, I think the reaction has generally been that the consensus seems Roethlisberger is deserving of being a first ballot Hall of Famer. And if that's the case, I don't know. Does anybody really think about Peyton Manning being shitty in his last year? I don't. Do you?
No, I mean, well, I don't think it takes away from him because we all knew that Peyton was on borrowed time after his neck surgery.
Yeah.
But I mean, like really, when it comes to Ben, I mean, to me, if he's not a first ballot Hall of Famer, then I mean, you're talking about a very small amount of people that should be Ben.
I think the only reason we've said this before, but the only reason is the sort of unmentionable, and I think that's a real possibility. I really do. I think there is a possibility there's enough people that don't vote for him the first time just because, Hall of Fame is a political thing and say whatever you want about all that, but it is what it is.
Is Ray Lewis a first ballot Hall of Famer?
I don't have anything to say about that.
No. But anyway,
that was good. You got me good.
No, but like
I
speaking
think
of Ray
that was
Lewis,
the first time on 5-Star Radio that I've ever been completely caught off guard. That was pretty good.
No, but actually, to piggyback off that, Ray Lewis had a thing probably halfway through his final year where he let everybody know that it was his last season.
Yep. I remember it was nauseating.
Yeah,
Yes.
well, yes, okay, yes, but
As a Steelers
that's not the
fan,
point here.
yeah.
That's not the point here.
Yeah.
The point being is that you saw a turning point, I think, in the Ravens at that point.
Oh, I see. So you think Ben's trying to cultivate a little Jerome Bettis, Ray Lewis kind of thing?
I wonder, and yeah, Jerome Bettis is another excellent example of that, where they were 7-5, they had a hard schedule coming up, and they just found a way to get it done. And it'll be interesting to see how the rest of it plays out, because I mean, a collapse, an 8-8 finish, or a playoff run all seem equally as likely.
I know, that's the wild thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
I think it's this game to me. I don't want to go too quick into looking forward, but I've been thinking about it today, and I think this Thursday nighter really is going to be very telling for me, because I think the Steelers probably can afford to lose at the very most 2 more games, and even that, I think they probably won't make the playoffs if they lose 2 more.
No, they gotta go 10-6. They have to go 10-6.
They could, but I don't know if they will. So and to me, the Minnesota is, I mean, on paper, probably the worst team that they play the rest of the way they've played this year. So,
oh, no question.
But it's tough. It's on the road and so on. I don't know. I think it's gonna be interesting to watch. It's just they're compelling even when they're terrible, and I don't know, they just pull magic out sometimes.
Well, the Steelers will always find a way to be average-ish, even if they're not a complete football team. That's just kind of, I've said it before jokingly, but I mean, you can really make the argument that, like, you give Tomlin a 3-win team, he goes 8-8. You give him a Super Bowl winning team, he goes 9-7.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. We'll see. I gotta reserve my judgment for Mike T till later in the year this year, because I still think this team was dealt a tough deck this season. And also, speaking of tough deck, I just have to point out there's like 4 times as many people listening to this as have clicked that like button. So click that like button, please. Helps us rank. Make sure you do it on the show too. Share it with your friends. I don't know why you'd be here if you haven't watched the show yet, but you better go watch the show, because, that's what your boy stays up all night to do. That's the bread and butter. Check it out. Share it. Do the thing.
Follow us on all the things.
Every platform in existence. Follow us at 5-Star Matchup. I still can't believe that I was able to get that on every platform. I thought that would be something that somebody would have taken in the 15 years since Mike Tomlin said it, but I guess it resonated with me more than anyone else. I wanted to talk a little bit about the defense. What did you think about the defense yesterday?
Oh my goodness. We
up
saw
and down, right?
Yeah, I think that's the best way to put it, actually. It was up and down. I don't know. Like they did a good job of containing Lamar Jackson, and they always seem to do a good job containing Lamar.
They do.
Justin Herbert notwithstanding, they do a pretty good job of containing mobile quarterbacks.
They do.
Yeah, so I mean, you would expect that at least. You wouldn't be able to expect him to just run at will. He got free a couple times, but you expect that. So they did well on that front. The run D had some issues at times. The pass D had issues at some times. What in the hell was up with their 3rd down defense? What in the hell?
Yeah, that's a tough one. I mean, I think that's part of what makes Jackson tough to stop, because 3rd and 7 with him is truly an anything down. Even if you want to shit on him like you do, it's still his ability. His ability makes it so that, Tomlin said this before, is that his ability makes it such that it's like, well, what do? Do you drop back in zone and let him have time? Because that's when he can beat you. But then you might not get beat in the run, but he could still eke out 8 yards. I mean, he's so fast that it's like, lightning.
He's
So
the greatest mobile quarterback of all time.
he is. He's the greatest scrambling quarterback of all time. There's no question about it. I don't even want to hear it in the chat. Don't even. There's no question.
Don't give me your Michael Vicks and your fucking
just
Randall
the way
Cunninghams.
he moves. Just the way he moves is different than anybody. I'm not even gonna lie. I'm a fan of Jackson. If he's not playing the Steelers, I enjoy watching him play. I think he's fun to watch. I like sports. He's a great player.
Come on, you said that I shit on him. Come on. Like, all I said is he is not a consistent passer. But, like, come on, man. He is electrifying to watch. He has turned the Ravens into a totally different team.
Yeah, no, and I think, but they've got some problems. They've really struggled this year. Even though they were at the top of the AFC coming into yesterday, they've had some games that were real stinkers that they just pulled off because they have a superstar player.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, the defense, a couple guys that I came away impressed with. I'll say something that I haven't heard because everybody talked about that practice squad nose tackle, which good for him. He did have an awesome game. I continue to be really impressed in the veteran savvy of Alex Highsmith. He's really good in the run game and really staying like, he reminds me so much of, it's such a funny thing to say, but he reminds me so much of Clark Hagan's, which is sometimes you need that, you need that guy on the other side that is just going to be in the right spot. You know what I'm saying? Like, you let James Harrison or Joey Porter be the stud, but you got to have somebody else that you trust on that opposite side. And Highsmith is doing a great job of that. And I'm impressed. I wish he was getting home more as a pass rusher, but he's great against the run, especially for a second-year player.
Yeah, he's definitely taken that step forward in year two. I mean, we saw that he flashed. He flashed a lot last year, and he's done well as a run defender. I'm sorry, I was gonna say run blocker, but that's not the right word. But yeah, I mean, he's done well as a run defender. But I mean, I still want to see more from him as a pass rusher. But I mean, right now, like, we need good, consistent pieces on the defense, and Alex is definitely that. Well, I've been pretty impressed.
The thing about the pass rush, this was bugging me earlier in the year when I was looking at the disparity. But now that we're looking at, 10 games played for TJ Watt, and he's got 16 sacks.
16 and a half, yeah.
I mean, I almost take a step back there, and I'm just like, well, what the hell difference does it make if you can scheme anybody else to get there if TJ could just do it whenever he wants? I mean, it's absurd this year. People don't even realize he's having his best year, which is insane because he's had incredible years in the last 2 years, and he's just tearing it up right now. It's absolutely nuts what he's doing.
I wonder how controversial of a statement this will be to people listening. TJ Watt right now is on pace to be the greatest pass rusher in Steelers history.
Oh, without a doubt.
I will fight you if you disagree.
Without a doubt.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, without a doubt, he's going to have the team record by the time he's halfway through the contract he just signed. He's already, I think, third all time, which is freaking nuts for a team like that. He's been here 5 years.
No, I mean, ability where it doesn't matter what you do to him, it doesn't matter how many people you put on him, he still finds a way to get to you.
Yes.
Like, he had that one play, I forget against which team it was, but he ended the game on the strip sack, and it was on a play where he got triple teamed, and I think he got pulled by the face mask, and he still got a strip sack.
Wasn't that the Seattle?
How do you stop that?
Yeah.
Literally, how do you stop that?
No,
I don't understand.
He's insane. And yesterday, what I think you saw that was so incredible was that it's not just like the pass rush, but it's having the feel for the game where he doesn't ever run himself out of the play. Like, he comes fast, but a couple of those sacks he had yesterday were after he wrapped around the pocket and came back at, Lamar, that's a position where TJ's actually had strip sacks before. Where did he have? He had a huge strip sack like that earlier this season. I don't remember if it was Denver, maybe. I don't know. I remember one of them. He had a good one like that where he looped around the pocket and punched the ball out. And he has this feel for the game. You saw it with the last play of the game, which was the 2-point conversion, where he came unblocked, but it it wasn't just straight dash at Lamar Jackson. You know, it was you're stutter stepping and you're kind of moving with him and just taking up as much space visually as you can. I almost thought of it as like basketball defense. And that's why the throw was bad. Lamar was scared of him swatting it.
Well, Lamar was, I guess, trying to fake him out. Like he kind of pumped and kind of like shifted his weight and tried to get him off balance. And you just can't do that with TJ. TJ doesn't give a fuck. But like two, he's got great balance. You're never really going to catch him off balance. And I mean, I remember someone leaving a comment on the highlights of the game earlier today and said, with the game on the line, they leave TJ Watt unblocked. Yeah, that's on them.
I know, and they did it repeatedly. I think that also happened on the one where they forced the interception to Minka. I mean, he came completely unblocked. What are you doing? What kind of strategy is that?
I have no idea. Like, the fact that he's not a defensive player of the year already is asinine. But I mean, Jesus Christ, you know that there is a real chance. We have how many games to go? Like, what, 6 or something like that?
There would be well, let's see. The Steelers are 6-5-1, which means they played 12 games, so there's 5 left. Yeah.
Okay, you know, you do realize that TJ Watt could very well break the single season sack
he
record.
needs to average 1.5 sacks per game. He's averaging 1.6 right now.
I was gonna say, like, he has a sack, and I would say every game. Like, I really can't think of a game where he hasn't had a sack.
He doesn't have a sack in every game because he has a number of like. This is not the first game where he's had multiple.
Oh yeah,
he's definitely had a couple games with like 2.5 or 2. He's been dominant this year, and you just don't even realize until it starts racking up because it always feels slow at the beginning. It's 2 stats that feel slow at the beginning: sacks and passing touchdowns. And then somewhere around like week 12, you're like, oh yeah, he's got like, 14 sacks or whatever. It sneaks up on you, but no, he's incredible.
I felt that way about Tuitt last year, where they were like, oh, he's the number 2 pass rusher on the entire team. Yeah, second most sacks.
Tuitt was good last year.
You're like, how the hell did that happen? Like, he feels under the radar even when you watch him every week. But like, speaking of under the radar, even when you watch him every week, someone else I gotta mention is Chris Wormley.
Yeah, great game. You love to see it for a guy who's got a little extra motivation in that one, a little extra sauce,
3 sacks. I mean, really, you couldn't ask for anything more.
I think it was 2.5 officially, not to split hairs with you, but I think he had.
I could have sworn they said on the broadcast he had 3.
I think he officially was credited with 2.5 and TJ 3.5.
Oh, those fuckers. Well, nonetheless, I mean, 2.5 sacks. I'm gonna give him 3. He deserves it. Like, he did. Hell of a job. He was in the backfield quite a bit, even if he didn't get to Lamar necessarily. I mean, he did his job pretty well.
Yeah, no, and they needed somebody to step up at the D-line, and he was the guy. I think, no matter how you want to look at it, I just think it's a really impressive win for this team. I still don't know what they are. I really don't. I have no idea. Like you said, I feel equally likely that they could lose out as that they would win out and like win a playoff game or 2. It just, none of it makes any sense, but they keep trying. So that's all we can really ask for as fans, I guess, right?
Yeah. I mean, like, really all you want out of your team, I'm pretty sure you're the one that said this before, is to control your own destiny. And right now we have that.
Yeah, I mean, hypothetically, that everybody else in front of them could potentially win out, but I think Baltimore plays Cleveland again this week. I think they played twice in 3 weeks.
Oh yeah.
So I mean, at least one of them is getting a loss, and I think it's going to be. I think Baltimore will bounce back.
I do too.
Which at least puts Cleveland a little bit out of the running. As long as we finish ahead of Cleveland, that's at least a little bit of a win.
Oh man, I just I hate the Ravens, and they're our biggest rival, obviously. But I mean, I just detest Cleveland fans.
Oh, me too. Yeah,
but a lot of them.
No, I will say one thing about that game yesterday. I felt like it was a good, hard-nosed but respectful Steelers-Ravens game. Don't you?
Yeah.
I felt like You and me talked a lot about this last year, the way that like I thought Harbaugh kind of ruined it by complaining about like Minka hitting the guy
Yes.
or whatever. And I was like, dude, that was a great game. Your guy didn't make the play. Like, why do you got to like make it about some stupid thing like that? And I thought yesterday in general, I thought they everybody embraced the moment of the rivalry and just had a knockdown, drag out, slobber knocker, as old JR might say.
Oh yeah. I mean, it was fun. I mean, it was a classic for sure. I mean, it was down to the wire, and like really, I have some complaints, but I mean, there's only so much you can complain about whenever you win a game like that, especially in the manner they did.
You want to talk a little bit about Matt Canada?
Yes, I do. I was just gonna mention that.
All right, let's hear it. I kind of came away thinking that was maybe his best game so far. I'd have to really split hairs onto who's calling what and everything, but I was impressed and pleased with the offense for the most part, even though the output wasn't huge yesterday. I think coming back against a team like that is always worth something, and I thought they had some nice plays. What do you think?
Well, yeah, I don't know if I disagree with anything you just said. A lot of people are saying like, well, Canada, what is it? They scored 3 points through 3 quarters. Yeah, I mean the game plan was kind of to wear down the defense, and you could see that they did that. Like you see the defense was starting to fall apart by like the end of the third.
Sure.
So you'd expect a little bit more production in the later stages of the game, which you saw. You saw that when they finally started mixing some freaking play action. I don't know if that's on Canada. It seems like it might be, but I mean, you would think that a guy that has a system based around play action would use it more. But
maybe he was just waiting 11 weeks to go against type.
I guess. I have no idea.
Everybody says he's hyper analytical. Maybe he was just laying like a snake in the grass. Maybe he was like, we're just gonna run the same. We're gonna run the same offense for 10 weeks. We're gonna go 500. We're gonna get all these kids acclimated. We're just gonna keep Ben upright. We'll win what we win. Try to go 5-5-1. And then in the last month of the season, we're gonna run the real offense. You think maybe he's a genius.
Oh my goodness, wouldn't that be great? He would just like, yeah, fuck it, we're gonna.
He's like, well, you're expecting me to do this, and he had a couple doozies yesterday. He had that beautiful swing screen out to Najee,
yeah, yep.
with which I've been begging. The one thing that you have in your favor with a young offensive line is that they're athletic. Get those fucking kids running down the field, like that's at least one thing you can do when they're young. And that was great. You got to get it to your players, your skill players in space. And then the pair of just absolute doozies on the 3rd and 1 crosser to Chase, which was beautiful by both Ben and Claypool, and then followed up with the wide open touchdown to Diontae, which I think to me might be almost the play design of the season for the Pittsburgh Steelers at this point.
I mean, when you ever see Steelers open by that much?
It was literally the most open I could remember since, you remember that wide open one Diontae had in Mason's first game against the Niners a couple years ago. That was like the last time I remembered somebody being that wide open.
It was crazy. It was crazy to see. I mean, like I don't know. I have mixed thoughts about Canada's play calling in that game. People were giving Ben the credit with the no huddle stuff, but Ben even said after the game during the presser that Canada was calling the plays, that they were just not huddling.
Yeah.
So, or like that's why you saw him like run over to the sideline and yell like good call and give Canada the thumbs up in the booth. Like I thought that they did well. They didn't do great. They didn't do amazingly. They didn't do terribly. They did well, and that's really all I can say right now. I mean, they're still limited by the quarterback they have. Let's not be mistaken. They're still limited by the limitations at the offensive line and the defense doing what it does and whatnot. Like it all depends. But I mean,
he's
at least an average offensive coordinator, and he's in his first year.
Yeah, I think my feeling on Canada as the season has gone on, I haven't lost faith that he he has a decent floor as an offensive coordinator. But I've began to lose a little bit of faith that he has a high ceiling as a coordinator. Is that fair? Like, what I mean by that is I'm not really sure I see anything to indicate he's going to be like a great offensive coordinator in the NFL, but I think he could be fine. I don't know. I don't see him really. And I acknowledge the limitations of the line and Roethlisberger and stuff, but it's just been too few and far between. I mean, I don't know, man.
Yeah, he's a little slow to adjust sometimes, but I also think that it's a mixture of things. Rarely in football are things just one single issue with one single solution. Like, very seldom is that the case. It's a mix of things. You have a QB that can't really throw it deep, and so it's like, okay, well, basically means we have to call a bunch of short passing plays whenever we call passing plays. So there's a limitation right there. Also, you have a guy who can't really run the bootleg very much anymore, as everybody loves to show that clip of him falling on his face whenever he tried rolling out to the right.
I always thought that was such a ridiculous thing that got out. I was like, that shit happens. Like, it's not. It wasn't that crazy.
But it's a little bit of a microcosm, though.
Yeah, it was. It was just fitting of that moment and how futile they were.
And I mean, you have Najee doing, I'm gonna say, like, probably 75 to 80% of the work.
Oh my god, man! I feel for Naj. I mean, he's just going into brick walls, and he's just jumping back up, and he's ready to go. And you gotta love him. You gotta love that guy. He's gonna be a star in this league. I got no doubt about it. He's gonna make that Le'Veon Bell jump next year. He's gonna be phenomenal.
I think so too. Really, who the hell was our lineman that came in replacement of BJ Finney?
LeGlue. Yeah.
What was weird is that we brought him in, and then our run game got good. Better.
Yeah. Finney's been garbage anytime he's played since he left the Steelers the first time. I don't know what it is, but I was shocked he couldn't stay anywhere. He got cut like 2 times. I was like, I don't know. Here he was a competent backup, but I think maybe that Tomlin guy. I think maybe that just speaks to how good Prime, having a Prime, Pouncey, and Villanueva on either side of you, makes it a little easier,
Yeah, I mean, like, when you have excellent members of an offensive line, you can kind of cover up for certain mistakes, and, well, we don't really necessarily have that luxury right now.
One thing I wanted to bring up about the quarterback, and maybe this goes to the offensive coordinator as well, I guess it depends on how you determine who's calling what plays and stuff. But I did tweet this out earlier about Roethlisberger's stats by quarter. Did you see this?
Yeah, something about it, yeah.
Basically, first quarter, 62% completion percentage. This is first quarter all season. 62% complete, 480 yards, 2 to 3 touchdown interception ratio. Second quarter goes up a little bit, 65%, 600 yards, 4 to 1 touchdown interception. Third quarter, kind of the same, 59%, 639, and 2 to 1. But in the fourth quarter, Ben Roethlisberger is completing 68.8% of his passes for 1,034 yards and a tremendous 8 to 1 touchdown to interception ratio. So how do we contextualize what he's doing? Does being able to constantly play well at the end of games, he's got 5 comeback wins this season already, which is pretty crazy considering he's tied for third all time at like 51. So that means he's had 10% of those this season, which is nuts. How do you contextualize that in the greater question of how he's playing? Do you know what I'm getting at here? Like, does that elevate it a little bit when you look at it that way? Or do you just say like, well, no, but why are you just not producing in the first or second quarter either?
Well, I don't know if I necessarily think that, because I mean, I think that fourth quarter is obviously crunch time, and that's where good quarterbacks show that they're great. And like, I'm not trying to rag on your guy, man. Sure, I'm not. Sure. But Ben is he is a bottom third of the league in quarterbacks right now. And I don't even really think that's much of a debate. He's physically limited. He can't really throw it past past 5 to 10 yards consistently anymore. Like, he almost exclusively checks down. He has no mobility. Can't do there's a whole bunch of issues here. And so, I mean, yes, some of these things may look good on paper, but he also, I don't know if they track dropped interceptions, but I mean, I almost guarantee you Ben would be at the top. Like,
Yeah, that's a fair assessment for sure.
He had it, what, 2, I think maybe 3 in the Ravens game alone.
In fairness to him, he's had at least 2 or 3, maybe 4 dropped touchdowns as well, which I'm just saying if you're looking at the stats right now and they said 20-5 instead of 16-6, it's not that different, and you would probably have a different opinion. It's just strange. I don't know. The only reason I bring it up is because I genuinely don't even know, because I watch him and I think he's diminished, and you just see it the way the way the ball comes out of his hands. I mean, watching that Chargers Bengals game at 1, and you just watch the way the ball leaves Justin Herbert or Joe Burrow's hand. It's just different. They just look like they're playing a different game.
Yeah, I mean,
but
and
is there something to be said about a guy who can stand in there for 10 rounds and then just be savvy enough to pull it out in the 11th and 12th and get a knockout? Like, I guess, because he outplayed Jackson, and Jackson's an MVP in this league.
I don't know, man. Like,
you know what I'm saying, though? Like, I could give you a case that it's good enough. I mean, it's just like being 11-0 last year. I remember, cursing out Pro Football Focus because they were saying, well, he's the worst quarterback in the league. And I was like, even if the statistics bear that out some way, shape, or form, which I still don't think they did. He still threw 33 touchdowns last year. But whatever, if you want to justify it however you want to justify it, how can that be the case if he went 12-3, which is a better record than every, 96% of quarterback seasons in the history of football? It's just, I don't know. It's tough to assess. Football is just a weird game, man. You know?
Well, like, I think that Ben was the best QB in the AFC North last year, but I think that he's at that point in his career, man. And I mean, there's no debating it. There's a troll in the chat, and it's kind of fun watching him melt down about Ben. But like, Ben has his limitations, but he can still guide the offense. He can still play the game manager role, and I mean, that's what he's done. And I mean, outside of the couple 2 to 3 bad decisions that he makes probably every game of his career, I mean, like, I'm not even making fun of him.
He's been doing that since he was 23 years old. I mean,
yeah. So my point in that being, like, he's gonna make those bad decisions sometimes. That's just Ben. But like, if he can just keep himself reeled in, that's really all I think he has to do.
Yeah, I think it's interesting if you look at the stats to see how pretty similar he is to what he did last year. I mean, at this point, it's a big enough sample size. The numbers are very much the same. He's just throwing last year 6.3 yards per attempt, this year 6.6. On about a similar pace. Last year 253 yards per game, this year 250. He's not throwing as many touchdowns for sure, but everything else is pretty much on par, which I guess would bear out that maybe he's not declined from last year, which I guess is a good thing. I still think this is going to be his last season, but I'm glad to see him put on the cape every once in a while and, I don't know, pull another one of these out. Isn't that always at least exciting?
Oh my goodness, yes. I mean, like, I was really impressed with what Ben was able to do last night. I mean, he just because I say he's limited doesn't mean I don't love, watching him and seeing him put on the cape, like you said, for this last little stretch of his career. I mean, I've watched every snap of Ben's career. You and I both have. I mean, it's going to suck when he's gone. It's just that I think people have this idea of like, oh, well, Ben can still hold on for a bit. I mean, he's still doing what he does, and he's still guiding the offense and whatnot. It's like, yeah, but he's not Ben anymore. Like, when you watch prime Ben and then you watch this dink and dunk shit, like, it's just, I don't know. It kind of takes away from it a little bit. I think he'll be remembered. He'll be remembered differently, I think, because of this last little stretch of his career, I think.
I see what you're saying, and I agree with a lot of it, but I disagree with that final sentiment, which is I don't think it changes anything about how you see the guy, because I think you're gonna remember, and we're all gonna remember the guy who was running around and finding Heath Miller and Santonio Holmes on that final drive in the Super Bowl. I don't think this really sullies anything. I don't, because I mean, we've been through bad moments before with Roethlisberger. Like, just because they had the Tebow game in 2011 or whatever, doesn't mean that like I didn't like anything that happened in the whole Killer Bees era. I think that's a weird thing, is when you start to assess the idea of legacy in sports, isn't it? I've seen so many people in recent years. There's one guy who always comes at me on Twitter whenever I talk about the Killer Bees era. Last week I tweeted out that picture of the Pro Bowlers from like 2017, and I think we had 7 Pro Bowlers on offense. And I was like, man, this is, I really took that for granted. I mean, the Steelers haven't really had a Pro Bowler on offense now for a few years, like not really legitimately anyway. And at that time, 2/3 of our starters were freaking Pro Bowlers. And the other guys were like Martavis Bryant and Juju. So, I mean, how blessed were we to be able to watch those guys? And somebody came at me like, oh, well, they didn't win anything, so it was completely pointless. And I think that's a lame way to look at things, don't you?
Yeah,
I mean,
31 teams don't end the season the way they want it.
I think that's like, I know we're Steelers fans and we're in it to win the Super Bowl every year and all that, and I agree. Like, I want to win the Super Bowl too. Like, I have more strongly positive memories of 2005 and 2008. Don't get me wrong. But I'm not going to act like watching Antonio Brown and Le'Veon Bell do some crazy shit for 5 years was a bummer. Like, you know what I mean? Like, that was still a hoot to watch, and I thought they had a chance in every game they went into,
Oh my God. I mean, I had a blast watching the Killer Bees play football. Like,
Yeah,
just
man.
where it felt like any game at any time, they could just explode, and
They could just blow it open, yeah.
And all of a sudden they've scored 28 points in a quarter, and you're like, where the hell did that come from? Like, it's just, it was weird. But like, I've always, for as fun as I guess fast football is, I've always had more of an appreciation for the slow, grinded out, run the ball 35 times a game kind of style.
Yeah, you're
and that's
a little
why,
old school.
yeah, a little bit, but I mean, that's why it's fun to watch like specific teams that, like, the Titans come to mind and whatnot, or even the Browns, like when they're not playing us, are interesting to watch in their own way.
Sure.
But the Killer Bees era, though, in particular, though, was weird because it's so different from what Steeler football typically is.
Yeah,
which
it's
is
such a funny little anomaly in there, which I just have to take a second, by the way. There's a ton of people hanging out here. Hit that like button and make sure you're subscribed if you're listening. We do this after every Steelers win. There's a full show. You got to do the whole thing. So, like, make sure you click that like button if you're hanging out in here. And if you are, thanks. Also, please consider donating to our Patreon at patreon.com/5SMU. You can donate just $1.50 or $4 or a couple other dollars. I don't even know how many the amounts are, but that's neither here nor there. We are talking about our now 5-1 Pittsburgh Steelers. This 2021 version of the Pittsburgh Steelers just leaves me so confounded every week. And, we talk a lot about Roethlisberger. We talk a lot about, the star players and stuff. We started to touch on this a little bit yesterday, but I'd like to talk a little bit about, or not yesterday, but earlier. We started to talk about a little bit of like under the radar kind of guys who contributed to that win yesterday. And another one I wanted to bring up because he has gotten some hate. Like, why'd they do that? I thought Akello Witherspoon had a nice game yesterday. He looked physical, making tackles. He made that great pass defense on Mark Andrews down the field, and I thought he acquitted himself well out there. What did you think?
I thought that Witherspoon had what was it? One or two good plays and like two or three bad plays. Like there were multiple times where he got beat and then got up showboating.
I think you could say that, but I guess my point is he looked a lot more like a professional starting cornerback than James Pierre did last week. I thought Pierre just had against the Bengals maybe the worst game any Steelers starter had this season at any position. Yeah, I just thought he was getting toasted up and down the field. So maybe it was just the disparity there, but I thought Witherspoon looked nice. I mean, they definitely need Joe back, and I hope they get him back. I don't think it'll be this week. Tomlin made some sort of allusion to being a short week, probably not going to get injured guys back, but hopefully the week after that. Anybody jump off the page to you as far as under the radar guys contributing yesterday?
Under the radar guys, I mean, even though he wasn't super under the radar, I got to give a shout out again to Chris Wormley just for a great game that he played, where it just felt like he was playing complimentary football. And I mean, he's done that in a couple games this season. I think he deserves to have that said about him. Same with Alex Highsmith. I mean, he did really well. TJ, obviously. I mean, I think our defense like stepped up in a big way, but I mean, I'm still not. I don't know. I'm still not confident in the defense for some reason.
You know who I want to give little props to? Because he just never gets talked about, because I think he's just very slow and steady. But, man, I think Terrell Edmonds continues to prove that he is a very useful and adequate piece on that defense. And I think at this point, I would be very disappointed if if they let him leave.
He has a better completion percentage than Jesse Bates, so
I think he's a solid player, man. How many times have you really seen him get cooked this year? He's been pretty solid, and he does a lot in run support. I think he's really turning into a nice player.
He's turning into a Steelers strong safety.
Yeah,
like he's doing exactly what they're asking him to do.
I think in some way he's their best middle linebacker.
You know what?
I was thinking about that with Mike Hilton, all that Mike Hilton discussion in the last week. And I realized, people didn't even realize that Mike Hilton was basically a middle linebacker on this team. Like, literally, in the nickel, he was basically a middle linebacker. I mean, he just was small. But the guy was making so many tackles in the run game. All those tackles that are getting to Minka, those are things that, Arthur Mollett's getting juked out on, but Mike Hilton would have made the tackle.
Yeah, Mike was weird. No, he played a very specific role.
I'd take him back in a heartbeat, bro.
I would too.
I love that guy. I hated that people got salty with him, and he deserved to get paid. The Steelers kind of screwed him. They kept him on a restricted free agent deal for like 4 years as a contributor. The guy deserved to get paid. He got kind of smug once he left the Steelers. That was my only real issue with him. I don't blame him. They should have given him some money. Mike Tomlin was using him like 100% of snaps. That's one thing I will knock about Mike T. He makes no bones about like using up a guy on a rookie contract. He really doesn't. And sometimes it's a little, I don't know, dude. If a guy, you could say he's your nickelback. Mike Hilton was a starter on this defense in 2017. He played almost every snap.
Yeah.
And he was making like $800,000, bro. Like, sign the dude to a real deal. I know you don't have to technically, but I don't know. I thought Hilton had a right to be a little salty, to be honest. Not everyone. I don't think everyone does, but Hilton, I thought he did.
I don't know. He did well, but he did well at a discount, and that's really all I can say about it. Yeah. I just there's some holes on this defense, and Mike Hilton's role definitely hasn't been filled yet. There's people that have stepped up. Trey Norwood's done a decent job as a rookie a seventh round rookie at that. Like, we've had some good standouts, but I don't think anybody that's really filled his role yet.
No, it's by committee. I think you've seen it a couple times. It's hard to do without Joe, but I think Sutton is still their best blitzing cornerback. He had a great play on Do you remember that? That's a lost play in the game, but he had a great blitz on Jackson where he came really under control, and he didn't. I don't think he got there for the sack, but he got his hands on him, and I think he ended up throwing it away. But I think I think Sutton is still the best guy at that sort of spot, and in an ideal world, he would be punching in into the slot when Joe is around, but the problem is he's their only legit corner. So without Joe, he has to play coverage. You can't do that very often. But
I just don't understand why they haven't gone after like at least some kind of depth corner position like in free agency. We have more than enough money for it.
I felt the same about tackle. I mean,
defense. Talking about like our nose tackle and whatnot.
No. That was in season. What are you going to do? They were prepared on the line. I mean, you can't expect it to never come back and Alu to get hurt. I mean, I can't blame them for the structure up there. I thought the D line was, thick or dense coming into the season. So I didn't. I'm talking about like offensive tackle. I mean, there were guys out there, Russell Okung, all these guys that are just sitting out there. They had plenty of money. But they sometimes they dig their heels in with corner. I don't know, man, because I think they mishandled that position all off season. I thought they easily could have afforded the deal that Hilton got. But they chose not to take him, which is an option. They signed Sutton, which was my number one want on the free agent list. So I'm glad they did that, and I'm glad he stuck around. But in retrospect, I don't think they had to cut Steven Nelson. I think they had plenty of space to work with. I think they could have kept him, and maybe he didn't want to be here or whatever. I'm not sure, but if I could have had my two ways about it, I would have rather still had him, wouldn't you?
I don't know.
No?
He was a guy that if you're talking about
man.
Steven Nelson specifically, he definitely regressed last year, in my opinion.
Yeah, he wasn't
he
as
started
good.
to get cooked, and finally by the end of the season, I went, you know what? If they don't hold on to him, I'm not even upset.
Yeah.
And like, what's he done over in Philly? He's been all right,
Yeah, I mean,
great.
cornerback is tough if you're not watching him every game. I don't know what he's doing over there. I can't judge him. But no, I think they could have. I think they could have stood to have another guy at that position. And I think they're going to be in trouble this offseason. I mean, that's a bridge we don't have to cross for a while. But I'm not sure at this point you can count on Joe being back after this season. Typically guy gets derailed for a big chunk of a season with like a lower body kind of thing at his age, and you start to get a little worried there. Not to put the kibosh on Joe. I love Mr. Joe Hayden, but.
Oh yeah,
it's gonna be 33. I mean, it is what it is for cornerbacks at a certain point.
I don't know. Like, I'm still holding on to hope with Joe because he hasn't really shown any signs of regression. Maybe like half a step down, but I mean, he's still pretty solid.
He's still a great NFL player, and I think he could come back and help this team this season. I'm just saying, I don't in the future plans. I don't know that you can really have him penciled in as a starter going into next year. I just think it might be a bit much to ask.
Do you think Cam Sutton is close to hitting his ceiling, or do you think that he has more room for growth?
No, I think Cam Sutton is what he is. I think he's a great jack of all trades. You want that guy on your defense, but he's not a number one cornerback. I just don't think he ever will be. He doesn't have the mold. Like, he has everything you want, but he's just not, he doesn't have the body type, or he doesn't have the agility. I'm not sure what it is. I'm not sure what one thing it is, but he's, a notch below. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. You got to have a good number two cornerback. Yeah. I just think I think they're going to need a real number one cornerback. That's all. I'd love to keep Sutton,
every Justin Jefferson needs an Adam Thielen.
Exactly. Every Antonio Brown needs a Marcus Wheaton.
Well,
or something.
Yeah, something. I was gonna say, I thought you were gonna go with Martavis Bryant. I was like,
no, I wanted to be a little outside the box there.
Yeah.
Remember when Marcus Wheaton went off against the Legion of Boom?
I don't remember that one specifically.
Oh my God, he had like 208 yards against Seattle in Seattle in like 2015. It's one of the weirdest anomaly games ever.
Yeah, I mean, we just had the ability to do that where we would just randomly we would have a guy go for like 150 yards and then you never hear from him again.
Oh man, I love classic Steelers wide receivers who didn't quite make it. You know,
Such as, give me some examples.
well, there's Bobby Shaw, Limas Swede,
I remember Swede.
um, Justin Brown was one a few years ago. I remember just Ben kept throwing him passes, and I don't think he ever caught one. And I just remember being like, "What? This guy must be unbelievable in practice." Because, who else? I love Sammy Coates. He's a classic.
Yeah,
Just
yeah.
like one of those guys where you're like, you look at it and you're like, oh, he could be a good wide receiver, and then you're like, he's not a good wide receiver. Like, I don't know. It's just sometimes it doesn't always add up. Wide receivers are funny.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes everybody they have all the tools and they just suck. And then this guy who shouldn't really, like, I don't know, Hines Ward. Like
I
Hines
know
Ward was a guy who really shouldn't have been nearly as good as he
he's
was.
greater than the sum of his parts. That's the thing,
Yes,
you know.
100%. And he was a dude like oh, god damn it. Yeah, I've asked you before and like I keep forgetting the guy's name. He was on the Cowboys. He said he was good because
Oh,
he
Jason
was a
Witten.
tight end.
Jason
Yeah,
Witten.
Jason
Yeah.
Witten because like he would just take
Yeah.
3 steps, but he would know that that's where there
Yeah,
would be an open spot in the defense.
that's what Muth is doing right now. Which, by the way, we didn't
Yeah.
even talk about him. I thought he had another great game yesterday, even though it didn't leap off the box score. That guy is, I mean, he's a real tight end. He's going to be the tight end for the next 10 years of the Steelers. I mean,
Oh yeah.
I suddenly feel about as sure as anything that freiermuth will be a Steeler in the next 5 or 7 years. I mean, the guy is,
Yes.
he is legitimate as a rookie's ever been.
What did Bruce Arians? He sent Ben a text after they drafted Freiermuth because I guess Ben asked like, "Hey, what's Freiermuth like?" And he said he's as close to Heath Miller as you can get. You'll like him.
Yeah, I remember some story like that. Yeah,
Yeah, I mean,
he's
it's been
great, man.
fun to watch. It's been fun to watch Freiermuth. Like they kind of eased him into it, but I mean, I think that was the plan, but like they didn't really as much as I thought they would because like by what week 3 he was out snapping Ebron and he has
Yeah, he
what like
never really looked back. Yeah,
two, three drops all season, something like that.
yeah. Ebron only has 12 catches on the whole year. I wouldn't have guessed that. I mean, I know he missed a few games, but still, wouldn't have guessed
Uh,
that.
Sounds about right for Ebron. No, I'm kidding.
Freiermuth is going to end up being probably their third leading receiver. Right now,
Probably.
he's fourth behind Najee, but he's only like 30 yards behind Najee. But Najee doesn't. They really don't throw him the ball nearly as much as I thought they would.
You would think that they would do a little bit more of like what they did with D'Angelo Williams, like where they were just like, yeah, he's a good check down valve, so we'll just keep giving him the ball.
Yeah, I don't know. I guess I definitely thought Najee would have had a little bit more impact as a receiver, but you know, it is what it is. Most of their passing yards are, I mean, shoot, a very high percentage of them are just a Diontae. He's got 914. Claypool's next closest at 660. Wow.
Yeah, Deontay. Wait, you said Deontay is the leading receiver?
Yeah, by far. He's at 914.
Yeah.
Next closest is Claypool at 660. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean Deontay's really stepped up. I mean, he really stepped up to the plate when Juju went down. I think he was like, okay, this is my time to show that I'm the number one receiver
Oh,
on this team.
he's gonna cash in too, man. I mean, if he finishes this, he's got a real shot if he stays healthy to do like 100, 1250, and like 9. Like he's got a really very good chance at a season like that. And he's going
Yeah.
into his 4th season. That dude's gonna get paid.
I mean, he barely missed out on 1,000 yards last season, so we could tell that he was building something over there, and that was with all of the drops that he had last season.
Well, yeah, he's had
So,
over 900 both of his first 2 years. Oh
yeah,
no,
so
no,
he's
no! I'm
been-
sorry. I'm looking at the chart upside down. He only had 680 as a rookie, but he had a lot of catches.
Well, he's always been a guy who you always felt was like inches away from greatness, and
Yep.
I'm still not sure that he's going to emerge as a quote unquote elite wide receiver, but the best one on the Steelers, yeah, definitely.
I felt conflicted coming into this season, but after this sample size in this offense, with this quarterback, I am convinced that Diontae Johnson is a star player. I really believe it. I think he's going to be... I think he's going to be a guy, he's still only 25. I think he's going to be a guy in his age 27, 28 season. People are going to be like, where did Diontae Johnson come from? And he's going to be putting up monster years. I think Diontae Johnson's going to be really good in this league for a while. He has that thing. He just knows how to move and create space. I think it might take a year or two, but he could do what Cooper Kupp is doing.
Oh my God. I think that he has a ceiling higher than Cooper Kupp.
Yeah, it's arguable.
I'm not saying
it's tough to
he's gonna...
say. It's tough to say that, but I mean, it's arguable.
Well, I'm not saying that he's necessarily going to reach that, but
Sure.
I mean, I think that he could. I think that he has a ceiling similar to AB, where just when you get him in space
I can't
and
say
you
that.
get him
Similar
the ball,
to AB is too much. It's too far.
No. But like similar play style, similar ability, similar dangerous ability with the ball in his hands in space. Like you give him the ball in space. Like how many times have we seen? Like you remember the Mason Rudolph game, versus the Lions, where what do they do when they went on that crucial third down? And they gave it to Diontae. He reversed field, went all the way back across the field.
Oh no, I'm not gonna say he doesn't have the ability to do that, because he has done it all year. It's just the difference between when you're talking about comparing somebody to Antonio Brown. For me, I
said similar ability.
You said similar ceiling, which to me is like, I don't know. I mean, because to me, Antonio Brown's ceiling is... I'm saying Antonio Brown's ceiling to me is the greatest skill player arguably ever, at least in the 2000s. And so like, I'm like, I don't see that, because to me, on those slants that AB would catch, the difference is Diontae's go out at the 20-yard line, they run a few more plays and kick a field goal and cross their fingers. Antonio took that shit to the house. That's the difference. That's the difference. It's just, there's a smidge, like, I don't think Diontae, this is stupid because this is fan base stuff, but I don't think Diontae is an all pro. I think he's a pro bowler. Do you know what I mean? I think it's like a different stratosphere.
Yeah, I'm just saying that I think Diontae has the talent to reach that all-pro status. Sure. I'm not saying he will. Sure. I'm just saying I think he has a similar ceiling.
Sure, that's fair. And he has a legitimate vaccine card, which Antonio doesn't.
No, but I mean, Diontae has that dangerous ability where if you give him in space and give him the ball, you really never know what's going to happen. And I mean, like, I think that's why they initially put him as a punt returner, because you never know what he's going to do. But then again, he wasn't as sure-handed as he is now, shall we say.
That's true. Yeah, no, I don't like Diontae as a punt returner. I still hate... No. I'm going to be a negative about one thing and one thing only.
Ray.
Oh my God, he is a horrible kick returner. If he makes the Pro Bowl as a kick returner... I mean, okay, I have no faith in the Pro Bowl anyway, so whatever, it doesn't really matter. Good for him. Get paid, bro. Like, whatever. It's all love. He sucks as a kick returner, dude. Like,
he's literally terrible.
He's not a good kick returner. Like, I don't know how to say it any more clearly. Like, he's just not good at it, at the punts or the kicks. He catches the ball, and I don't know how, because he's fast, he's agile, et cetera, et cetera. He catches the ball with 10 yards around him, and he goes nowhere. I don't understand. It's baffling. I don't know.
I've seen enough from Ray. I finally had enough of him. I think it was 3 games ago, and it's just I don't get. Someone in the chat just said LMAO, another round of 5-star versus Ray.
Oh my God. I mean, I had to do it to him, X. It's just, he is just not good. And he's actually decent. Okay, you want my one hot take about Ray that's a positive? That was a catch, bro.
It was.
That was a catch. I'm sorry. If you ruled that incomplete and you didn't want to overturn it and make it a catch, I would be okay with that. But you ruled that a catch? I'm sorry, it wasn't conclusive that the ground helped him make the catch. Yeah, it might have hit the ground, but I thought he had control the whole time. To me, that's a catch.
I do too.
I was actually shocked that they overturned that one.
Oh no, I didn't think for a second that they were gonna let that play stand.
Oh,
I knew the
really?
minute that they challenged it that they were gonna fucking overturn it. It
I
just
mean, that
felt
looked
like
like a
that's how it
catch.
was gonna
That looked like a
happen.
catch to me, man.
I mean, the ground definitely moved it to a certain extent, but like he never lost
But I don't think that's
control of
yeah, I
it.
think the difference is though is I don't think that that's why he caught it though. You know what I'm
Yes,
saying? Like the ground was it's allowed to touch the ground if you're not losing control of it. And to me, he had control the whole time. I thought that was a great catch.
great catch, great throw too.
I think but fans on both sides could complain about the referees yesterday. I thought they were awful. And I think they've been awful all year in a lot of
Hear the
football, not just our
fans?
games. They're terrible.
Do you hear the fans
Yeah.
chanting "refs, you suck"?
Yeah, they were going pretty hard.
I love Heinz Field.
I know a couple of they did. I'll give them credit. I've been critical sometimes in recent years of fans sitting on their hands in that stadium, and they were into it yesterday. So
Yeah, they were.
I'll give them credit where the credit is due on that one. But yeah, I don't know, man. I guess just looking forward, we just gotta. I guess just keep doing what we're doing. I don't know. I don't know what the ceiling is. I don't know what the floor is. I don't even know if there are walls on this building. I don't know. I don't know. What is your just like what's your like, top level take after 13 weeks?
I know, like I really, if I had to sum it up, if I had to leave you with some parting words, I know less about this team now than I did at the beginning of the season.
Yep.
I feel like we could go on a run and win like 4 or 5 in a row, make the playoffs, and whenever you get into the playoffs, man, anything can
Just never
happen.
know.
Or I also feel like we might collapse like we always do in December and lose like 4 out of our next 5, don't make the playoffs, Ben retires, and we rebuild from there. I feel like either of them are completely plausible. And if I had to leave it with something, I would just say like really I want to see more play action. I want to see the run game continue as is. I want to see the ball be out of Ben's hands as much as possible because eventually they're going to stop dropping his interceptions and we need to fucking prepare for that. And as someone in the chat says, I hate Chris Collinsworth so much. Don't worry, we all do.
Yeah, I think that's fair. He is the worst. I didn't really listen to them last night because I was working on the show, so I was lucky.
Yeah.
I'll be honest with you. Can I be totally honest? I did not realize the game. I completely forgot the game was 4:25 yesterday until noon. Like I was so ready to be like, oh, it's 1:00 game. I'll be, I didn't think the Steelers were gonna win anyway. So I was like, I'm probably not gonna have to do the show tonight. But even if I do, I'll be done so early. And then I look at the schedule and I'm like, oh yeah, it's 4:30. Damn it. I think that was the only time.
So sorry to hear that because that's like the worst. Oh, I need to get started on another like throwback game one of these days.
Yeah, man, let's pump it out. The people are loving the throwback stuff, particularly anything Roethlisberger's flying off the shelves. We recently got our most viewed video ever. Actually, did you see that? Then one of them is like 95,000 views. So
excellent.
I really wanted to get to 100K, but it still gets a few in syndication.
We'll get there.
So yeah.
It'll definitely get there. It's already pretty much there. So.
Yeah, and I think for me, I echo a lot of what you said. I think I said it in the show already. Which shout out, make sure you watch the show if you haven't. We know less after 13 weeks than we did in August. I can't make any judgment about any of these new offensive line guys. I don't know that I feel drastically different about Roethlisberger than I did week 1. I probably feel different than I did about him week 3. I probably feel different about him than I did in week 9. I just don't know. I really don't. And
I don't either.
And as you say, it's anything can happen. And I remember a team being 7-5 in 2005, needing to win out to get into the playoffs. And they did it. Against all odds, they went to the playoffs and won 3 games against the 1, 2, and 3 seed on the road in the white jerseys. And went to the Super Bowl. Now, I'm not trying to draw any illusions. I'm not trying to, you know, uh, put too much hot air in your balloon, so to speak. But you never know, man. Tell me who looks great in the NFL right now. Not really many. I mean, Arizona maybe, but other
Patriots.
than that, in the AFC, yeah, I don't know. Are they beatable? Can you beat a rookie quarterback if you need to?
I don't know. They've won like 6 in a row, and Mac Jones is easily the best
they're
rookie
in the
QB
AFC.
in the league.
They're in the AFC East. They play the Dolphins. They play the whatever, and they're gonna get smacked tonight.
Oh, but when Tom Brady does it, he's the greatest of all time.
It's different, man. It's different because he does it in January. Okay. They're gonna get smacked tonight. Nobody's gonna be talking about the Patriots. Oh, they're gonna get smacked.
I got $5 that the Patriots win this game.
Oh, I'll just even no spread. I'll do $5 on you. Yeah, no, the Patriots are getting smacked tonight, bro.
We'll see. We'll see.
The Bills. All right, there you have it, on air wager. No, I think the Bills are gonna. I think they're gonna have one of those like. Those games where you get a division opponent and you're just like, you've had a couple bad weeks and you just kind of a get right game. I really do. I think they unload on them.
It's possible. I mean, Josh Allen's Josh Allen, but I think Belichick is going to Belichick Josh Allen. And I think that Mac Jones, what he does better than Josh Allen is he plays within his limitations.
That's true.
So I think the Patriots are going to win that game. They won what? Like I think it's like 6 in a row or something like that.
That is true, but they're due. I think they're due. Anyway, I don't know what to say about the Steelers except that they're a lot of fun, and you should watch them every week. Never give up. Just keep coming back, watching 5-star matchup, win or loss. Well, hopefully win. I think they're gonna unleash a little bit of hell one way or another this December, whether it's on the league. Or if it's on, our cardiovascular system,
Yeah.
They're going to unleash some hell. You're going to feel some kind of way. And most importantly, us here at 5-Star Matchup and 5-Star Radio are going to be here to talk you through it. Gage, thank you for joining us today. Make sure you follow him on Twitter, please. Gage Ryan Video.
Yes.
Make sure you follow us on all platforms at 5-Star Matchup. I will see you guys next time.
Peace.
Bye.